The forest pulsed with a cold light, every vine and shard of crystal foliage whispering in alien tones. Rain slid down metallic leaves, the sound sharp as needles against the wreckage of the transport rover. Inside, a small human girl clutched her knees to her chest, breath shaking, eyes wide in the blue darkness. The beacon on her wrist flickered weakly, each pulse dimmer than the last. She knew that meant rescue was slipping away. Somewhere beyond the wreck something growled, a sound too deep, too aware. Her father had described the local predators before they landed, pack hunters, fast, smart, and drawn to movement. The colonists called them renders. They'd taken entire survey teams without leaving bones. He'd promised her they'd stay far from the hunting grounds. But promises broke fast when ambushes came in the night. She remembered flashes, shouts, plasma streaks, a blinding explosion. The convoy scattered. Her pod rolled downhill and tore open. Then, only silence and the pulse of her heartbeat. She hadn't seen her father since. The darkness around her now seemed to breathe. Shapes moved between the glowing trees, long limbs, spined silhouettes. The renders were circling. She pressed a trembling hand against the rover wall to steady herself, her father's voice echoing in memory. If you ever get lost, remember the code. Say it loud. Say it proud. They'll know who you belong to. At the time, it had sounded like a silly game. Now it was the only thing she had left. Outside, one of the creatures hissed, the sound like dry metal scraping over glass. Their language clicked in short bursts. They were talking about her. She couldn't understand the words, but the tone made her skin crawl. The smallest one crept closer, claws tapping softly on the hull. It tilted its head, black eyes glinting with cold amusement. Her breath caught. The creature sniffed the air near the opening and froze. Then it growled, a sound that vibrated through the wreck's frame. The others responded instantly, emerging from the mist. Their shadows merged into a ring of motion, closing in. One of them let out a rasping laugh that echoed like blades scraping together. They knew she was cornered. She backed deeper into the rover's belly, metal crunching under her boots. The movement gave her away. The lead predator lunged, claws raking against the entrance. The panel tore open, letting the alien night spill in. She screamed, shrinking back as their faces came into view, skeletal, insectoid, slick with rain and hunger. Something primal inside her broke free, not courage, but memory. Her father's command rose unbidden in her throat. She shut her eyes, fists clenched, and screamed as loud as her lungs allowed. Echo 9 Tango Black! The forest froze. The predators halted mid-step, claws hanging in the air. A single drop of rain hit the ground. Then another. Their eyes darted between each other, confusion giving way to recognition. They whispered in their clicking tongue, voices rising in panic. The oldest among them hissed something guttural, the equivalent of a warning. Whatever the child had said, they had heard it before, and feared it. Up above the planet's clouds, a faint signal burst through static on an orbital frequency. A tired communications officer monitoring distress channels frowned as the message repeated through interference. The waveform matched an old encryption, classified, long retired. Sir, he whispered to his superior. We've got a live transmission. Echo 9 Tango Black. The supervisor froze. His hand hovered over the console, disbelief spreading across his face. That code hadn't been used in years. Not since the operations on Delta V. Back on the surface, the girl didn't understand the sudden silence. The renders withdrew slowly, circling in agitation. One of them hissed toward the sky as if expecting fire to fall from it. The leader snarled orders, but the tremor in its voice betrayed its fear. She sat frozen in the wreckage, chest rising and falling rapidly, rain dripping down her hair. The predators retreated into the mist, their forms dissolving into the luminescent dark. Somewhere high above, automated defense systems stirred. A targeting network came online for the first time in over a decade. Down below, the girl whispered into the static, half sob, half prayer. Dad? I said the code. The clouds rumbled in reply. In orbit above the storm-wrapped planet, the human Navy cruiser Valkyrie 3 drifted silent through the dark. Its crew worked under red alert lighting as the comms officer replayed the strange transmission again. The pattern was clear, an encrypted distress phrase buried inside a civilian frequency. He looked up, face pale. "Commander, that signal, it's Echo 9 Tango Black." The words carried weight like a curse. The commander's expression hardened. "Patch it to command control, priority 1. Down in the tactical bay, the message reached a man in civilian fatigues, Marcus Reed, former captain of the same unit whose name had just shattered the calm. He had been working engine diagnostics for the colony network, retired from combat, and buried under a promise never to return to war. But when the code appeared on his monitor, time itself seemed to pause. The numbers burned on the screen, followed by a trembling child's voice repeating them through static. He didn't ask for details. He simply stood, the old precision sliding back into place. The years vanished. His voice became the tone of command again. "Locate source," the technician stammered. "Surface grid 45, unregistered beacon." Marcus nodded once, already moving toward the armory. The officer tried to stop him. "Sir, your authorization was revoked after Delta V. Echo 9's been dissolved." Marcus paused at the locker door, eyes cold. "Then consider it reactivated." Inside the dim bay, he opened a sealed container labeled classified, E9TB. The locks recognized his biosignature and hissed open. Inside lay the matte black armor of his old unit, its surfaces scarred and burned but functional. A data pad blinked a message left years ago, for when ghosts are needed again. He suited up in silence, the clicks of mag seals echoing through the chamber. Each piece of armor felt like reclaiming part of an identity he'd buried, leader of Echo 9, the most feared tactical recon squad humanity ever deployed. They were specialists in asymmetrical warfare, silent insertions, surgical eliminations. Their record was legend. Their enemies called them the Sky Shadows. When they appeared, entire alien warfronts went quiet. On the bridge, the commander tried to argue with higher command. "We can't authorize planetary deployment. He's retired." The response from Earth Command was a single line: "If Echo 9 Tango Black is active, you will stand down and clear orbit." Even bureaucracy knew better than to interfere. Within minutes, the drop pod bay was prepared. Engineers exchanged uneasy looks as they saw Marcus enter. He said nothing, just checked the chamber seals and weapons status. An AI voice spoke softly. "Captain Reed, mission parameters unclear." "Confirm target?" He responded flatly. "Recover the source of that code." "Threat level?" "Unknown." "Assume hostile." The AI paused, tone shifting. "Acknowledged." Echo 9 protocol restored. The ship's internal lights dimmed, and old subroutines long archived began to activate. Drones reconnected to his combat net. The war systems that hadn't run since Delta V hummed alive again, broadcasting encrypted pulse signatures through deep space. Crew members watched through reinforced glass as the drop capsule powered up. Marcus stepped inside, calm as a statue. His expression wasn't rage, it was something colder. He wasn't going to war for glory or revenge. He was answering a child's cry. A lieutenant approached the console. "Captain, that code, it's yours, isn't it?" Marcus met his eyes. "It's my daughter's voice you heard." Silence filled the deck. No one dared speak. The drop countdown began, thrusters locking into sequence. In the capsule, Marcus gripped the deployment bar and closed his eyes. His breathing steadied. For 10 years, he'd prayed never to hear that call again. But when it came, it meant one thing: the ghosts were needed. "Echo 9 Tango Black," he whispered, reactivating the tag across the HUD. "Mission start." The capsule detached, slicing through cloud layers like a falling blade. Sensors tracked its descent until interference cut the feed. Above the noise, a single transmission pulsed through the commnet, an old military acknowledgement code, cold and final. "Sky Shadows inbound." The jungle trembled as the drop pod tore through the atmosphere, leaving a trail of fire across the night sky. Deep below, the predators crouched in their dens, their senses vibrating with the sound. They had gathered around the trembling human child, whispering her strange phrase among themselves. None of them truly understood the meaning, but their elder did. He had seen that code etched into captured armor once, before his entire brood was annihilated in silence. He hissed a warning, his voice trembling. "Do not speak those words again. They summon death." The younger ones mocked him. "Death? It's just Prey's scream." They prodded the child, testing her scent, arguing who would feed first. Their leader glared at them through his single, milky eye. "You think the stars forget?" he rasped. "That unit burned 3 worlds. They do not come in armies. They come in shadows. They don't leave trophies." His warning was met with laughter, until the ground itself shuddered. A sonic crack split the night as the pod impacted miles away. The vibrations rolled through the trees, scattering wildlife in terror. Flocks of glass-feathered birds burst into the sky, and the predators froze mid-step. One turned toward the direction of the impact, sensing something vast and mechanical approaching through the static-choked rain. The elder's mandibles clicked in dread. "He's here!" Far from the den, Marcus Reed rose from the crater, smoke curling around his armor. His systems came online: thermal scans, drone feeds, terrain mapping. The jungle lit up with heat signatures. Dozens of lifeforms moved in coordinated packs, encircling the distress signal. He adjusted his rifle grip, heart rate steady. He wasn't coming for war. He was coming for one life. The predators sensed movement before they saw it. Their hunters vanished one by one into the mist. No sound, no scent, only the faint shimmer of motion. Panic rippled through the pack. The younger ones snarled, slashing wildly at the shadows. One screamed as a red dot appeared on his chest, followed by a flash of light that erased him completely. The elder hissed, "You fools! I told you, those who hunt the humans invite ghosts." They scattered through the undergrowth, trying to retreat toward the mountains, but drones intercepted them, silent, hovering spheres tracking every heat signature. The forest became a killing ground, lit only by occasional flashes of silent light. Through their panic, the child's faint voice carried from the den, crying for her father. Marcus heard it through his comm relay, her biometrics pinging on his HUD. The sound tightened his breath. He moved faster, every step measured, every motion deliberate. His armor blended into the rain, his silhouette invisible. One of the renders lunged from a tree claws wide. Marcus pivoted, knife flashing once. The creature hit the ground without a head. Another charged, 2 suppressed shots ended at mid-leap. No pause, no noise, no hesitation. The man who had sworn never to fight again now moved with surgical brutality. Back at the den, the elder predator watched through trembling eyes as his kin fell one after another. The child stared in shock as streaks of red light carved through the mist. The alien fell to its knees, realization dawning too late. "The code," it whispered, voice shaking. "It wasn't a plea for help. It was a warning." Marcus's voice echoed through their comm intercepts, distorted but clear. "Echo 9 Tango Black, confirmed ground presence." Every predator froze at the sound. They recognized the tone, the same one broadcast during extermination sweeps years ago. A death sentence spoken calmly. Lightning split the clouds as Marcus stepped into the den's outer ring. His visor glowed faintly, reflecting the chaos he'd created. One alien, desperate, tried to flee. A drone intercepted and burned it down mid-stride. The rest dropped their weapons, instincts overridden by terror older than logic. He advanced through the silence, scanning ahead. The beacon pulsed once more, his daughter's location confirmed. The hunt was over. The reckoning had begun. Rain hissed against scorched foliage as Marcus advanced through the remnants of the predator pack. His armor sensors mapped the terrain in shifting outlines of red and gray. Every reading led him closer to the faint heartbeat ahead, the child's. He moved with mechanical precision, rifle steady, awareness expanded into the dark like a second skin. The air reeked of ozone and ash. Behind him, drone signatures blinked confirmation of neutralized hostiles. None would rise again. The beacon's signal sharpened. She was inside a collapsed den, beneath twisted metal and roots. 2 predators remained, larger scarred, protecting their meal. Marcus slowed, observing their pattern. They circled the child cautiously, arguing in their rasping dialect. She lay still, eyes wide but silent. The code she'd screamed still echoed in her mind like a lifeline. Marcus triggered his visor dampeners, dropped into the shadows, and closed the distance in silence. A muffled flash marked the end of the first predator. The second turned, confused, catching only a faint reflection before 2 rounds ended its movement. The sound faded into the rain. Marcus stepped through the steam and knelt beside his daughter. Her small hand reached out hesitantly, brushing the cold metal of his gauntlet. "Dad?" Her voice cracked, disbelief wrapped in exhaustion. He unlatched his helmet, letting her see his face. The calm she remembered replaced the fear that had owned her. "You came," she whispered. He nodded once, voice low. "You called me home." She clung to him, trembling as adrenaline drained away. He checked her vitals, patched a dermal stim to her wrist, and lifted her gently into his arms. His HUD displayed a swarm of new readings, dozens of heat signatures converging from deeper in the jungle. Reinforcements. The predators were regrouping. He opened a comm channel. "This is Echo 9 Tango Black. Initiate orbital strike pattern Omega 4. The AI confirmed instantly. "Warning, blast radius exceeds colony protection limit. Execute." Above the clouds, Valkyrie 3 realigned its orbital platform. Tungsten rods locked into magnetic launch channels. Crew members exchanged silent glances, knowing exactly what was coming. On the surface, Marcus turned his back to the jungle and began walking uphill, daughter cradled against his chest. The earth vibrated beneath his boots. Seconds later, the sky ripped apart. Columns of white fire stabbed downward, turning the Predator Valley into a sea of molten glass. The shockwave rolled through the forest like a tidal surge, vaporizing everything it touched. Marcus kept walking, the thunder fading behind him, his expression unreadable. The girl buried her face against his shoulder, deafened by the roar, unaware that he just erased the largest predator hive on the continent. He reached the extraction zone marked by his drones, cleared ground still smoking from precision strikes. Dropship thrusters ignited overhead, bathing the clearing in blue light. Medics rushed forward as the ramp lowered, but he waved them back until she was secured first. Once her vitals stabilized, he stepped aboard, armor streaked with soot and blood. A lieutenant approached cautiously. "Captain Reed, confirmation required. That strike obliterated everything in a 50-kilometer radius." Marcus didn't look up. "That's containment." He set his rifle down beside her stretcher and remained silent as the ship ascended. Through the viewport, the jungle burned quietly, smoke twisting into the clouds like morning ribbons. He removed his gloves, reached for her hand, and held it steady as she drifted into sleep under the medic's care. The AI reported mission success, recommending deactivation of combat protocols. Marcus responded only once. "Leave them running." His gaze stayed fixed on the horizon, where the fire still glowed faintly beneath the rain. He had delivered the message carved into every Echo 9 operation. Humans did not retaliate halfway. As the Valkyrie 3 broke through the upper atmosphere, comm channels filled with static and one final broadcast from the surface. Distorted alien transmissions repeating a single warning through the void: never touch a human marked by the code Echo 9 Tango Black. The following morning, the planet was silent. Smoke drifted over scorched plains where the predator dens once stood. Nothing moved except the soft wind whispering through glass craters. Drones hovered in formation, scanning for survivors, but the data feeds confirmed what everyone already knew: there were none. The predators who had ruled this world for centuries were gone in a single night. Above, the orbiting cruiser maintained geosynchronous position, its sensors recording the devastation as evidence of the strike's precision. In the medbay, the girl slept under thermal covers, her pulse steady, breathing calm. She no longer dreamed of claws or screams. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and ozone, a sterile piece foreign to her young mind. Marcus sat beside her, silent, his armor stripped away, the lines of exhaustion carved deep into his face. The uniform he had sworn never to wear again rested folded on the table beside him, the old insignia faint but visible, Echo 9. An officer entered quietly, holding a datapad. Command has acknowledged your transmission. They're requesting a statement. Marcus didn't look up. They don't need one. The officer hesitated, eyes darting to the sleeping child. Sir, the Council will want justification for the orbital strike. Marcus's tone didn't rise, but it cut cleanly. Tell them it was a response. The officer nodded and left without argument. There was no need to explain vengeance to anyone who'd ever lost something. Through the viewport, dawn crept across the planet's surface, revealing a scar that stretched for miles, a burn line that could be seen from orbit. Humanity's presence was now etched into the soil. For nearby systems, the broadcast had already spread. Alien traders intercepted fragments of the signal, bits of human language paired with coordinates, and the repeating code, Echo 9 Tango Black. To those who understood, it wasn't a phrase. It was a warning. Weeks later, whispers reached distant colonies. Stories twisted in translation. A child of the Death Worlders had been hunted. Her cry had summoned an old ghost, and the ghost had burned an empire's predators from the map. Alien captains began rerouting trade routes around human space, unwilling to risk testing the myth. In taverns and military outposts, the story grew. Some said the father was a weapon, others claimed it was an orbital AI with a soul. But the lesson remained the same: never harm a human child, for somewhere out there, a code waits to be spoken. On board Valkyrie 3, the crew worked in uneasy silence. They had seen destruction before, but this was different, surgical, absolute, driven by something beyond orders. The medics whispered about the man who'd walked through the fire to retrieve his daughter and left a species extinct in his wake. When the girl woke, the first thing she saw was the window. Outside, the planet still glowed faintly red beneath the clouds. She turned toward her father. Will they come back? He met her eyes and shook his head. No one ever comes back after hearing that name. She nodded, too young to understand the magnitude, but aware enough to feel safe. He smiled faintly for her sake, though his eyes carried the quiet weight of what he'd done. His mission report would never mention rage or fear, only completion, recovery, and neutralization of hostiles. Yet the truth lingered unspoken: a single code had brought an entire predator race to its knees. When the ship departed orbit, the comms relay detected one last planetary transmission, an automated distress signal looping endlessly, distorted through interference. Translated, it said, "Do not hunt the humans. Do not touch their young. Do not speak their codes." As the message faded into static, Marcus stood in the observation deck, the stars reflecting off the glass. His daughter's reflection appeared beside him, small hand pressed against the window. Together they watched the dying world vanish behind them, its light swallowed by darkness. Humanity did not roar in vengeance. It whispered its warning across the stars, and the galaxy listened,